Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would everyone please stand to join us in the flag salute? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's on. It's being blocked by my new computer. I'll put the screen down a little bit. All right, well, welcome everyone. Pardon us if we're a little disjointed up here. We're trying out a new online agenda, but I have a cheat sheet right here, the old-fashioned one, in case it all goes away. Let's see. We'll start out with item B2, the approval of the minutes from last meeting.
I move we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of August 9th, 2016, and the minutes of the special meeting of August 22nd, 2016, and the minutes of the regular meeting of August 23rd, 2016.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then we'll move on to the approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
I'll move that we approve this agenda and the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, this is a roll call.
Alicia?
Aye.
Jacqueline?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Terry?
Aye.
And I'm aye.
Okay. So now we'll move on to item D, I think I'm doing that right. Yes. Move on to item D, public interest reports, presentations, and our superintendent's report. Did I get that right?
That's right.
All right.
That's me. Good. Thank you. I'm trying to follow along on the computer and on the sheet of paper, and I don't want to miss anything. And I can take notes at the same time. Good evening, board. I've found my first couple of weeks in the district invigorating, and I've done little else but work on the charge that you gave to me, which was to keep our priorities moving forward. Well, actually, last night I spent a couple hours trying to become a Rams fan, but I'm going to have to work on
Good
that
luck
one.
there.
Yes. I've been impressed by what I've seen in the district. Teachers in action, connecting with students with a contagious enthusiasm for learning. I got to see them talking to parents at our back-to-school nights, sharing their passion for teaching, and I was pleased and I was proud to be part of their team. You have great administrators in place in this district who are highly competent, very professional. You have excellent people in the district office. I've been impressed by so many people in the district. I won't name names, but Jolene Colomé is a standout, the best I've seen. And I've been impressed by people from our CBO, our Chief Business Officer, and her handle on the budget. You know, she double checks everything, and she double checks me. To our welcoming and knowledgeable office managers, great custodial staff, and of course the ever-smiling and engaging instructional assistants who are just everywhere. You know, I was out on the playground at Canaleno School, and here between Canaleno and the family school, I counted 8 adult vests out on that playground, which is very unusual. You don't find that in most schools. You find a yard duty. These people don't have names. For the kids, they're just the yard duty. Or 2, or maybe 3 people. I was also pleased to see people here in the district responsible for areas such as facilities, bond projects, and special education, who I have worked with closely in the past and who I already have tremendous confidence in. I've discovered, as you undoubtedly have already known, the incredible number of programs available to students at our schools. At the high school, 14 advanced placement courses, 20 courses that are dual enrollment courses with City College. I mean, those are big numbers, and I saw classes with a lot of students which allowed classes with just a few to be taking very specialized training in subjects that were maybe an AP programming subject, something like that. AVID courses starting in middle school for students who would not otherwise go to college. I watched the Get Focused, Stay Focused training for a wide geographic area right here at Carpinteria High School using Amy Bryant's classroom and her activities. Very impressed, and they were impressed. At the other end of the continuum, our children's program, with its many and varied spectrum of parent outreach programs, is the envy of any community. You should be very proud of that, and I know you are. Let me give you a quick rundown on the things we're moving forward on now. The first priority of any school system is always students. We have a brief report on student achievement, looking at our state test results from last spring on tonight's agenda. We also have a clear look at last year's budget in a presentation on the year-end unaudited actual budget amounts. This is not only critical as a critical board oversight function, but it is also critical because another thing we need to move forward on is our expectation that we will conclude our current negotiations soon. And it's important to know how the budget is linked. And I may be oversimplifying this for you on the board, but I don't hear a good understanding on the part of the public. So let me say it in this way. The current negotiations are negotiations from last year, 2015 to 16. And the budget we're looking at tonight is the year-end budget for last year, 2015 to 16. The district is now entering a fact-finding process. This is not a complicated thing. Rather, it's straightforward, and it does not call for any gnashing of the teeth. I have watched it unfold in other districts a number of times, and believe me, it really is straightforward, and let me just present how it will probably run out in our district. A fact-finding panel will study our budget, the one that we're looking at tonight. They will consider the union's position requesting what I understand is a 6% raise. They will consider the district's position offering 3% of salary. Now that 3% of salary is 1% ongoing and 2% as a one-time payment. There are also many contract articles that were discussed and tentatively approved last year that are not a primary concern of this panel. So they're really just looking at the salary issues and the district budget. The budget has already included the automatic pay increases any individuals got for more years in the district. The budget has already included increases in the cost of health and welfare. We provide an well over $18,000 health and welfare package, and we provide each full-time employee with medical insurance, dental, vision, and life insurance. And sadly, to the aside, there have been many times in the history of school districts across California, well, across the United States, when potential salary increases often get gobbled up by rising health insurance rates. For the fact-finding panel, it is simply a question of whether the budget can carry the raise and leave the district with an appropriate reserve in future years. If the budget can carry a 6% salary raise and leave the district with an appropriate reserve in future years, the panel will say so. If the budget can carry only 3% of salary, the 1% on schedule and the 2% off, which is just a one-time payment, and still have an appropriate reserve in future years, the panel will make that determination. I have seen it go both ways. I've seen other recommendations. I've even seen a fact-finding panel come back to a school district and say, you can't even afford that. Your best and final offer. In the end, probably mid-October, we're hoping. The panel will make a clear recommendation, And that will set our course to conclude negotiations for 2015-16. And then we can start for the current year, 2016-17. Let me go on to other things. The LCAP, the Local Control and Accountability Plan that the board reviewed last spring, was incomplete. We're returning it to you this evening, and we've gotten a lot of help from some talented staff members. Mari Hornbach, the county crew started calling Mari Magic Mari because of her skills, and of course, Maureen Fitzgerald. Moving ahead on Measure U bond construction projects is a big priority. In addition to the action items tonight, we've scheduled a special board meeting on September 22 to look at the CEQA, to look at site plans and priorities. And I'm looking forward to that, as I know you are. Studying the current year budget for 2016-17 will be placed on a calendar for a special board meeting because we want to put plenty of time into fully understanding that budget, and that will also set the stage for negotiations for the current year. So we'll try to do that in early October. We will also be taking a look at the new state accountability system at a future meeting. There are a number of things coming up, but let me just finally give a shout out to the Carpinteria Education Foundation and their Carpet Cabana. Their event occurred this weekend. They did a great job with all the donations going to students in the form of site funds and scholarships. And there's plenty more to report on, but I'll save some of it for our next meeting. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, we'll move on to item D2, and we have the Rotary Club here tonight to make a donation presentation for the music program. Welcome, guys.
This is Noontime Rotary.
Noontime Rotary.
Barry and Ticknap.
It's actually the Rotary Club of Carpinteria. It's the oldest club, the oldest Rotary Club in Carpinteria. Anyway, I'm Barry Entiknap. I'm presently the president of our charitable foundation. And, we're really proud to be provide this gift to the school. And that is of musical instruments. It's a very small school. People try really hard to make a difference. In starting around 2013, our club has been able to raise $34,000 for new instruments. In addition, we've got $2,500 to refurbish used instruments. We want to give special thanks to the sponsors to our annual talent show because it's them that makes all this possible. This summer, we delivered and refurbished 37 used instruments, many with new cases. We also delivered 27 new instruments. They included violins, cellos, altos, saxophones, and trumpets. There's lots of good reasons to support music. But most importantly, research has shown repeatedly that playing a musical instrument will significantly improve academic skills like memory and math. One study in particular showed that playing a musical instrument actually improved neural processing, which directly impacts learning. Through the efforts of Tom Pavia, who's the music instructor for the middle and the elementary school, the music program interest has grown significantly. And so has the need for more musical instruments. Unfortunately, there's the demand far exceeds the need. The need is just so big. We don't have the instruments to provide. In addition to what they already need, we also know that they need a complete timpani system for orchestral playing. So the needs are there, but here we're really here tonight to express our continued interest in supporting the music program at the school. And our hope is that the school board and the administration will also support the music program at the school. I'd also like to add this year in particular, we had a couple of administrative problems trying to deliver the instruments to the school and get the whole thing going. So in the future, we'd like to be aware of whatever all these requirements are before we actually start delivering it, rather than we're right in the middle of the system. So thank you, and we certainly hope for your continued support.
Well, thank you, and I'd just like to give a little personal aside here. All three of my wife and I, our children, have gone through the music program with Mr. Pavia, and we've seen the size of that middle school band grow from my daughter's first year when she was in 6th grade. It was, I think there might have been 25 kids total, and now I think there's, in all 3 grades, there's got to be close to 80 or 90 or more, and it's quite astounding, and you can see the improvement, and you can see the instruments that Rotary has donated have made a huge impact on that. And I mean, the board is a complete support of music. I know in the past, the music program does tend to be one of the early ones that, when we have budget problems, that is considered for cuts, and that's the last thing we want to do, because we all identify how valuable it is. I know there's some misinformation circulating around town about the music program not existing anymore, and that's not true. There's well, it was in the paper last week. And I just, we are totally supporting the music program.
Well,
And-
thank you,
and
and
see
we
that-
also support it, and music is a wonderful gift.
It is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I say something really quickly, too? I'd just like to give a little shout out to Rotary of Carpinteria. That was my club when I was still in Rotary. And so thank you so much for the efforts that you've given in the last few years for our music program, because they're substantial and truly appreciated. But also the many years that you have dedicated to helping children read. I know you go over to Canalino School, it used to be Main School, and you spend an hour a week, different people spend an hour a week on a regular basis reading with students, and you put a lot of emphasis on education, and I just want to thank you for that. And I know our morning Rotary as well does the dictionaries for our students. So anyway, I just want to send a little shout out there and say thank you.
Board, I'll take our thanks directly over to the noontime Rotary meeting.
Great.
Excuse me, Rotary of Carpinteria.
Yes. Yes.
Thursday at noon.
I missed you guys. You know that.
These are my people too.
All right. Well, thanks again. Okay. No student this week. Okay.
Yeah, we thought we would have one, but the high school's in the process of selecting a student.
Okay.
And we'll change it up a little bit. If there's information about the schools, I'd be happy to present that. I really want a student from the high school to talk to us about all the great things going on just at the high school. Not take a lot of your time, but we always get to see that enthusiasm about high school life along with that.
I like that idea. I mean, have the high. We talked about that last
Yeah.
week a little bit. Have the high school student rep talk about the high school, and then you can give a report on what's happening at the other campuses.
Yeah, I like that idea,
And
too.
that way, there's a little more enthusiasm in their reporting.
Yeah, I like it.
You don't have to read the whole time.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Okay, so we'll move on to item D4, presentation of the results of the 2016 California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress. Another acronym we have to remember.
Great.
And the California Standards Test, CST.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to you about these, I'm
ahead,
sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
about these state test results. This is all under, now, do I have a clicker too, or a pointer? Okay. Coming my way. Oh, sweet, is there a laser on it too?
You're gonna have to use the mouse.
Okay. Oh, good, I can do
With
this
the
then.
mouse.
Oh, look at that.
With the
Oh,
mouse.
oh,
There you go.
oh, that mouse?
You have to use your pointer so that the people that are watching at home can see
I
what you're
see.
pointing to.
I see. Now, if we go on the state website, and these are just being released now, that website is caasp.cde.gov, and it shows the state test results for the Smarter Balanced test, which is probably the premier test, but there are some others. There are adapted tests for students with special needs, and there are other tests in the system. This, for instance, doesn't have the science results, and we'll be anxious to see that in the future. On this website, we will see distributions, in this case for the overall district in English language arts. And when we take a look at our results, there we go, third grade results, and we look at the percent of students at or above the standard that have met the standard or are above that standard. There we go. Got it. We see that 46% of our third grade students are at or above the standard, that 53% of our fourth grade students are at or above, 51% of our fifth grade students are at or above, 51% again at the sixth grade level, at the seventh grade level, 59%, eighth grade level, come on little, there we go, 58%, 58% again at the 11th grade level. Notice that this skips now. We go consistently up through grade 8, then we skip grade 9 and 10, we go right to grade 11, and then we get an all, which is across all of the grade levels tested. When we compare the percent of students in our district, Carpinteria, right here, 53% at or above the standard. It is above the state average, which I just got this over the weekend, actually, which is 49%. So our 53% compares favorably to the 49%. Another way to look at this is to look at the students who are near the standard or up above the standard. There we go. In our case, we have 79% of our students in the district who are near or above the standard. And of course, this is always a concern to any district and in any classroom. But these other ranges are as well. And any program that doesn't look out for its highest achieving students needs to be concerned. I see that we are in this district. I see that we address the full range. I noticed in Teachers Back to School Night presentations that they regularly talked about the range of the students and their differentiation for students with different levels and different abilities. So I'll go on then. Well, now, there are subtest results there. Subtests both in terms of the areas that are tested in reading. Students are tested on specific items in reading, in writing, in listening, and in research and inquiry, and all together, these are called English Language Arts Literacy. In mathematics, whoops, oh, other clicker, sorry. Well, I'll have to just step out of that maybe.
Use the other side of the clicker.
Use the other side? Okay, good, thank you. In mathematics, we have a bit of a different distribution. Here in third grade, I'll just read across, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and so forth. In third grade, our math results show 51% of our students at or above standard. Fourth grade, 49% at or above standard. Fifth grade, 24% at or above standard. This is a real anomaly. And looking back, I saw that last year our fifth grade students had difficulty with this as well. I frankly don't know whether this is a testing as an anomaly due to the test itself or the standard at that level. You know, on the editorial side of this, people usually go through a sort of a bookmarking technique. They take the student performance, they take a panel of experts, and they say, now, this student is able to do this, isn't able to do this. At what point would you see what our rubric is, what the standard is, at what point would you say that this student is meeting the standard or not meeting the standard? And of course they have questions that are, in math, the questions might be about concepts and procedures. They might be problem solving and modeling and data analysis. They might be communicating reasoning, where students have to express their thoughts in order to solve a problem. I mean, there are any number of ways students can demonstrate this kind of proficiency or this kind of standard in mathematics, just as there were in English Language Arts Literacy. So for 2 years, we've had very few students relatively up in this range in fifth grade. It's better at sixth grade. At the sixth grade level, we had 30% of the students at or above. Seventh grade level, 40%. Eighth grade level, 40%. 11th grade level, 43%. And the final overall number there is 40% at or above standard, which is also above the state average. Across the state, there are only 37% of students above that standard. And you know, these standards have moved up. I mean, I remember mid-90s when everything that was to be taught in first grade got shifted down to kindergarten, and we rigorized the standards for the state of California by essentially moving them down a grade level. As we've gone to looking at national standards and some of the other standards, then we have purposely tried to set rigorous standards for our students. And in the first couple of years of testing, we found that, gosh, the results don't look very good. Now, in the past, things like NCLB, No Child Left Behind, would then mark students or mark schools as failing schools because they didn't have very many students above that rigorous standard. And of course, we all saw some inherent unfairness in that. We'll see in this new accountability system on the part of the state where this goes and how it's used. One thing that No Child Left Behind always did provide was a way for schools to find safe harbor, that if they made enough growth each year, just 2 years in a row, then they were removed from program improvement, and of course that gets harder and harder as you go. The other thing, let's take a look at the number of students near or above level 2, 3, and 4. In mathematics, we had 68% of our students who were near or above the state standard. Again, math is broken down into the sub-areas of math, and in both English Language Arts Literacy and in math, we can look on that website at all students, as we have here. We can break it out for English-only students. We can break it out for English learners. We can break it out for all sorts of subgroups of students. And I just had a discussion with people in the county education office, and they were specifically complimenting Carpinteria for its performance with students who are English learners. That when we look at other districts, certainly the other districts around us, we're doing a very good job with English learners. And of course, we'll have our own discussion about that. Is that part of the children's project? Is it part of ramping it up right as students enter in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, so that by the time they're taking this test in third grade, they've really got it? We're also reclassifying students that are at a very high rate. So that's another thing we're to be complimented on. Well, there's another way to look at these results. Yes, go ahead.
I'm
Sure.
just looking at the 5th grade scores,
Yes,
and I'm wondering, did we identify what's going on there?
we certainly will. It's on our list. We're talking about it Thursday morning, aren't we, Jamie? And, you know, if you ask Jamie Pursoon, she probably already has some good ideas about what might be going on there.
No doubt.
Sure, briefly.
So traditionally, 5th grade scores have been lower than the other grades when you look at mathematics, even with the California Standards Test. I had the opportunity to teach a 4-5 for a few years, and so I got a really close look at the jump between a 4th grade math standard and a 5th grade math standard. In 5th grade, under the former standards, before the Common Core, you went to fractions, decimals, and percents in 5th grade, and that was a big conceptual leap. They have scaled that back a little bit in terms of content, but the rigor of the reasoning has gone up. So they have to do a whole lot of reasoning and justification and writing in the math test. So we're certainly not happy with those 5th grade scores, the number of students who were not met or nearly met, and we have a plan to work on that at the sites, and I know we'll be continuing to talk about how we continue to address that problem.
Thank you.
Great. I was pleased to see that with this anomaly, once we get to this point, then we see a general increase in the number of students who are above that line as students go up through the grade levels. And back in reading, boy, that was really obvious. We see that this line drops as students go through the grade levels, and we see more and more students at the upper grade levels who are achieving at higher levels. And that's got to be very gratifying for all those people who pour their life's energy into teaching our students. Whoops, wrong way. The other thing that is shown on this website, and this is shown for the district, it's shown by school, it's shown by all students, it's shown by subgroups of students. And by the way, board, you will see the school results. You know, I printed enough pages just off the web page so that you could see what the numbers actually were for the district. But when we present our single plans to the board, then we'll really start with the test results for that school so that we're targeting and addressing the needs of that student population. But we see students in last year's 3rd grade into this year's 4th grade. This is not an identical cohort. Any students who left after 3rd grade or any students who came in new into 4th grade will change this. It's generally, we don't have a huge mobility rate in the district. It's generally the same group of students. But you can see that there's a general jump when we take a look at this 38%, and we see that it goes up to 49% for this generally similar group of students as they go from 3rd grade to 4th grade. And you see increases at every grade level. I'm very pleased to see this. 4th grade to 5th grade, look at the increase again at that point where we go, where if we drew a line between level 2 and level 3, the number of students who meet or exceed the standard. Fourth grade to 5th grade. I'm sorry, we just looked at English language arts and math, and now we're looking at English language arts literacy, 5th grade to 6th grade. We see an increase on this one. In mathematics, again, we see an increase on this one. As students go from 6th grade to 7th grade in English language arts, we see an increase. I mean, it's just across the board. See, I think there was one area where we didn't see that big increase. Look at this increase, especially at the students in the top group, the level 4 group, from 13% up to 25% in English language arts.
So, Brian?
Yes.
So basically, we're comparing the same cohort, the same students, right?
Yes,
So-
yes, almost the same.
Yeah.
Minus the, well, they didn't take out the ins and outs out. And here we find I think this was the only area that I saw that I remember seeing where there was actually a little bit of a drop, 7th grade to 8th grade in math. And that's really it. I didn't want to go into the subgroups. I didn't want to go into the schools. It's frankly unfair to compare straight across from one school to the next. Each of our elementary schools has a different socioeconomic, different population, has a different parent education population, and those two factors in and of themselves account for a lot of the variance in and predictability in student scores. I mean, it's simply a fact. There's a lot of learning that takes place at home as well. And as I understand it, that's really the purpose of our children's project, is to capitalize on that home environment as well and use a high tide to raise all boats. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Alrighty, move on to item D5, instructional management tools for monitoring elementary student learning.
Jamie Pursoon will present this. I was looking at all of these various programs, and she said, well, I can make sense of this for you. I said, oh, good. Would you do it for the board, too, please?
She's pretty good at that.
She is.
So, good evening. This was a presentation I talked about with Dr. Sarvis, and we're really fortunate to have Brett Weiberg here tonight, who is integral into tech management here in Carpenter Unified School District and quietly leads us on a lot of different things. And also Kim Marmay, who does a lot of leadership as well, especially with the measure of academic progress. So those two items, Ed Caliber and measure of academic progress, are coming back to you tonight with a little more further explanation about how it fits into the big picture. So yes, instructional management tools for monitoring elementary student learning. I'm going to give credit to Dr. Sarvis for that fabulous title for the name. So the first thing we wanted to talk about tonight, since it is an item on your agenda, is Ed Caliber. And I'm going to bring up Brett just to do a brief explanation of that.
Good evening. So you guys, everybody knows me. I'm Brett Weiberg, and so I teach Aliso at second grade at Aliso, and I'm also grade level chair for second grade. So we've been using Ed Caliber. This will be our third year. And basically what it is a curriculum management tool, and it's storing all of our district and grade level resources. So it provides us access. So for the past years, we've been using Engage New York, which is an open source. And then this year, we're now using Bridges. So all of those things can be combined into there so that the teachers have access to them. It's mainly just for teacher use. And then the administrators can also access all grade levels and all the grade level resources. Right now, currently, we are putting on our pacing calendars, our meeting calendars, our rubrics, all of our assessments, and all of our writing resources, and then all of our professional development resources and stuff are on there as well. We're using that so that we can save costs with paper and the copy machine. We used to print out huge binders with all of this information for teachers, so now it's all stored on there. And that's become harder over the years as we've been using things like Engage New York, where there's a lot of materials to use. So overall, the teachers use it pretty much on a daily basis to kind of access their curriculum and their resources.
Thank you, Brett. So the cost is $10,000 for 2 years. So we had an initial contract, and this contract is coming back around again to be renewed. The company has extended past the July 31st, or excuse me, I think it was June 30th end of the contract, and they're just holding for us and letting us just hold on to it until we can come back to you with more information. We are, however, looking at budget overall and programs overall and exploring this year. I've proposed that this year we take some time to explore with Michelle Fox, myself, Barnaby, and the grade level chairs to see how we can streamline our technology programs, and if they have multiple uses, make sure that we are, taking advantage of everything that the programs offer. So one grade in particular, 5th grade, has looked into using Google Docs and Google Calendar for a similar purpose. It doesn't quite have the capacity that EdCaliber does now, and the interactive feature and the ability to download from what Brett was saying, open source curriculum. So for anyone at home, open source curriculum has become very popular, and using things online that are free, or some things that we subscribe to, like Bridges, which we recently adopted. We have the actual books, but then there's the online piece that you can load into EdCaliber so teachers can access just their grade level documents. So open source curriculum can be streamed through EdCaliber, which we wouldn't be able to do with Google Docs. The big schools, we call it the big schools, Aliso and Catalino, have KidBiz, which is an online expository fluency and practice program. If you have children in either school, you'll know about it because it comes home as homework. Student and teacher use, it's a quote-unquote SMART program, which means that the students take a pre-assessment when they start, and then the program gauges their performance on each activity and ramps up the complexity or the lexile level of the passages and the questions. And then the teachers monitor the student use from their own computers. So the teachers can see, like, for example, if a student didn't do well in a particular activity, they can see maybe perhaps they spent 3 minutes on it. So that was a clicking issue, and make the student go back and do it again. It has a writing feature that's very much aligned with the Common Core standards, and the teachers use that as well. That's funded by sites. It's a very expensive program. It's about $15,000 for each Catalino and Aliso, which you've already approved at a previous consent agenda. The small schools cannot afford that program because it is very expensive per pupil. We have not adopted an ELA, ELD curriculum for the elementary, and so a lot of teachers are really heavily using KidBiz for the expository text practice that it provides. We have been using this program for over a decade in CUSD, and it was originated at Aliso, and Catalino jumped on that bandwagon probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And we said that it's appreciated by the majority of teachers. Not everybody loves everything, but most teachers are very heavily using KidBiz. And I know that Michelle and I are both requiring its use because of the cost of the program. We also have Typing Club at the sites. It's an online keyboarding practice. A lot of parents are asking us, are you teaching my child to type? We're finding a lot of students are hunting and pecking with the one finger, because of the iPads and the tablets and the phones. They are learning to do it like that. So we are still trying to teach about home keys and things like that that actually exist in our current tech plan. Those are site funded, but we have discovered that if you don't pay for the year, you still get access to Typing Club. There's just a lot of pop-up ads. In fact, so many that it becomes a little distracting for the students, and it's only about $400 for a site license. It's not very expensive. Storia is published by Scholastic, and it's online expository fiction and fluency comprehension. Right now we have a site license at Catalino and Family School for $2,000. Aliso has one as well. I believe you have Summerland included on that license? Yes. So everybody in elementary has access to this. It's online books. Teachers can put books on students' bookshelves that they want them to read. Students can select their own books. It lets them know what the lexile level is. The words can be highlighted as they read so they can learn and point with their finger. Very good graphics, high resolution depending on what you're using it on. And, people are really enjoying that use as well. Renaissance Learning has been around for a very long time. It's a reading comprehension program. That's overall what it is, but most of the use at this point is the STAR reading test, which is a kind of an oldie but goodie test that has been used for a long time, and the Accelerated Reader program, which is incentivizing reading with points, and the points are attached to how complex the book is and the Lexile level. The overall price for the whole district, not just elementary, is $20,000, and all of the sites are charged per pupil. So it depends on how many students each site has. So that is accessed by all sites. And finally, ScoopPad right now is just being used at Aliso, grades 2 through 5, and that's a math and language practice and review program. It has student use, and it's site funded. Any questions so far?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
For these online programs, it's been a long time since I've asked or heard anything about computers for families. Do we still partake in that program, and are most of our students receiving computers in their homes now
Yes.
with also
We
low-cost
are really
internet?
fortunate to have Computers for Families in
Yes.
this county, and they run out of the Santa Barbara County Education Office.
Right.
And we just have met with them at the sites, all the sites. We're actually doing something new this year with Computers for Families. Rather than have a distribution night at each separate site and organizing that, we're housing everyone at the middle school on the 28th, and the distribution night will be all at one spot. So they're bringing a lot of staff. We're sending staff, and each site has a Computers for Families liaison who arranges with the Computers for Families and then the teachers to find out who needs a computer, get those registration forms filled out. The follow-up piece that becomes really important is if there's a tech problem or a repair issue that needs to be handled with those computers. A lot of times families just won't reach out, so we try really hard to, make sure, because they will fix them for free through Computers for Families.
Right. So do we have any idea how many students we have that don't have access to computers?
Very few at this point. The bigger issue is actually connectivity to the internet.
Right.
But Cox is offering a program. I think it's $10 a month.
Right.
I'm going to look over here.
That's what it used to be.
For the first year.
Oh, just
So
for
then
a
it
year.
goes up, which becomes the problem. And you
Okay.
have to be qualified for free or reduced lunch to get that price. And you have to be this is another problem, only one account per address. So that can be a little tricky
That
with some
can be
of
a
our
problem.
families as well.
Isn't that rate only for 1 year?
Yes.
Also, it's a teaser year.
Yeah,
or
and then it
whatever.
goes up pretty significantly. So when we have connectivity problems, I know the big sites are opening their computer labs at 7:30 a.m. so that students have access to them. And our after-school programs and our partners like Boys and Girls Club and Girls Inc. are all offering online access where they are as well.
Okay.
A lot of our programs are actually you can utilize on smartphones as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
last
you.
year with Dreambox, we used that for homework in most of our kids.
Okay. Good.
Yes.
Good.
So we were finding a way to get everybody connected. Every teacher can tell you the 1 or 2 kids that they have that are not connected, and then finding ways to make sure that they have access somehow.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
So assessment, Dr. Sarvis just went over the CASP that we do the p at the end to make sure everyone remembers.
Far too many letters.
It is. It's a summative accountability measure statewide, and as he reviewed, it's grades 3 through 8 and 11. Part of the preparedness for students on the CASP test is not only the instruction that we need to deliver to meet the rigorous standards, but also the technology practice and instruction to take the test. It's rather significant, the typing. It's a split screen. I always encourage every single adult that I know to go on to the practice test, which is online, and anyone can take it, and you'll have an idea of what our students are doing. So it's a split screen. Well, on the left-hand side, there's the passage you can scroll through, and on the right-hand side, you're answering things in little boxes that move around. You're highlighting sentences. You're dragging and dropping things onto a number line or into shapes. It's very, very complex. So those scores that you're seeing at the 3rd and 4th grade are almost as much to do with technology skills as they are to do with content knowledge at this point, until we get kids to the point where they can really quickly maneuver them. And frankly, they learn quite a bit faster than we do on that. So we'll get there. We'll get there. But it is a challenge for them. One of the things that we really are trying to do is provide them a lot of opportunities to take online tests that are mimic or are similar to the CASP, and that's where the measure of academic progress comes in. And I'm going to bring up Mrs. Marmay.
Good evening. So MAP stands for Measure of Academic Progress, and this is my 4th year doing MAP. I started it when I was in Goleta at El Camino, and I've been doing it 3 years here in CARP. And what it is it's a assessment test that's taken 3 times a year. It's offered in language arts, reading, and math. It breaks down into standards. So within reading, there is literature, informative, and vocabulary. Within language, there's writing, editing grammar, and editing mechanics. And then within math, there's operations and algebraic thinking, number and operations, measurement, and geometry. And the thing that I like a lot about it is that it offers goal setting. So like I brought in an example, and I have students at varying levels within my class. So instead of always measuring them to the 4th grade standard, it measures them to themselves. So they get a beginning of year score, a middle, and an end. And I sit at their conferences with their mom and dad at report cards, and we talk about where they are and what kind of things they can do to improve. MAP offers groupings. So like inside of my class, I can see where my kids fall based on their score in literature, where they fall in informative, and I can put them into reading groups. So it offers goal setting. There's an aspect for parents, for students. So you talk with them a lot about it in class, and it's great for teachers. And then I have just a little thing, an example of one of my high and low students within my class, but you can see how they both were able to grow, and you can show growth rather than always comparing them just to the grade level. So that's what I like about MAP.
Okay. So Kim has brought some handouts that I think we can leave with Jolene so that she can get them to you if you wanted to look into it further. In the last 2 years, that was site funded just by the big schools because they could afford that. So the proposal this year, we would like it to be a common assessment because we don't at this moment have a common assessment for language arts for our grades. And a common assessment, as you know, having been on the board, is very important for us to make sure that students are making progress in a timely manner and the teachers are getting regular feedback at regular intervals and have that data to discuss at the Professional Learning Committee community meetings, which happen every month. Without it being district funded, then it becomes only Catalino and Aliso, and the 2 small schools are left out of the conversation. So our proposal was for it to be district funded so that it could be common across all sites. It's grades 2 through 5. Also, Kim is an expert in MAP and has really led the Catalino site on the goal setting and has offered to go to the other sites this year and has already proposed some dates so that she can help the other teachers utilize it to its full potential. So we'll be working on that pending your approval.
What's the cost of that, Jen?
I think it's probably in your agenda. NWEA.
Yeah, it's the
I want to. It's probably about 9,000, somewhere around there.
down.
Maureen's going. 9,936. So the also the contract for Dreambox had come to you, and we decided to pull that contract and prioritize what we really felt we needed for this year. Dreambox was a bridge program between the, quote, old standards and the new standards, and that was our only math program for Common Core. We now have adopted Bridges, and so we're going to utilize Bridges this year and, try to flesh that out and really focus on math instruction. So
we didn't renew Dreambox.
Correct. So we're not coming back to you with
Dreambox was fairly expensive, wasn't
it? It was $15,000 for the district.
For the district, okay.
Mm-hmm. And the district general fund was paying for that for the last 2 or 3 years. Okay, so then EDIMS. So if you've been paying attention to this used to be called Measures, and then Measures got purchased by EDIMS. So it is our data management system. It is formerly run by Bob Keating, and I've been chatting with Bob over the last couple of days, and he's helping us out still. Using the pacing calendars and the assessment calendars off of Ed Caliber, Bob, and with my help, is getting those assessments back in so that we can make sure we are recording our student data as not only an accountability measure, but just so we know what's going on with our kids. I, as an administrator, use it all the time, so I can go to, say, for example, the kindergarten letter names assessment, print it from lowest to highest, and then I identify the lowest quartile in 5 minutes and make sure that we're reaching those kids with additional support. Very important. The sites actually pay for this. It's parsed out by student count, so we all get a student count amount. Mari, the Magic Mari, has gotten that contract through to you before it was expired. So again, the Magic Mari. Bob had suggested last year, and he continues to suggest with Aaron's support, that we investigate as a district ARIES analytics. So this is an example of what I was talking about earlier, that we have ARIES as a district, our student information system. Possibly we could use ARIES analytics and spend the year investigating that with a task force or a team, including teachers, since teachers are, probably most importantly teachers, the end user, looking to see if that program accomplishes the same goal as EDIMS. It is not included in what we currently purchase from ARIES, but it's an added-on module that would probably be less expensive in the long run than having a second program, which is EDIMS. You can also import data such as the MAP and the CASP scores, which is actually Magic Mari has already imported the CASP scores into EDIMS so that teachers can look up their students' scores as well.
Do we know what the module for ARIES would cost?
We do not. I don't have that. So that's kind of what we wanted to look up, to investigate this year.
Yeah, I'd like to see if what the cost of that module versus the cost of a whole
So I think our overall goal is to kind of streamline all of this year with, somebody taking charge of that and having a lot of teacher input on that, because they are the end users of all the programs, and seeing how we can get the fewest programs for the best price to cover all the needs.
Yeah, that was the direction we were headed in last year.
Correct.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you need EDIMS for this year.
Correct. So we can't really take things away without something to replace them yet.
Yeah.
But that's a goal. And finally, the hardware. I wanted folks to be aware of how we pay for hardware. The iPads, the sites have iPads, the elementary sites, and those are almost entirely grant funded. For a variety of sources, CEF being one of them, Village Properties grants, another one. So a lot of site-based granting. You might recall that a couple of years ago, when you had the one-time Common Core funds, you purchased quite a few Chromebooks, one Chromebook for every 2 students in grades 3 through 5, largely to be able to take the CASP and practice beforehand. Sites have supplemented with additional Chromebooks for K2 and increasing the number in 3-5 through CEF grants. Every CEF grant last year was tech-based. So sites don't have separate money. The district doesn't have separate money to purchase technology, so we find our ways to get it. Projectors, which is used in pretty much every classroom, those are also site-funded, and you would be shocked at the amount it costs to replace the light bulbs. They're like $70 to $100 for those light bulbs. Document cameras are also site-funded, and printers are site-funded. It's another project we're doing with Aaron to kind of streamline and coastal copy, instead of having individual printers in each room, printing to the big machines, which per page are a lot less money. And being able to track where the most of the printing is coming from. So it's something we're working on as well.
So ideally, in the future, wouldn't it be more efficient to have all technology paid for out of district funds?
I suppose it would be ideal, especially if you wanted it to be equal or have some equity in it.
Access to everybody. Okay.
But there is a pretty significant amount of site budgets going towards of the 2 big schools. And then I know I've suggested to Dr. Sarvis that we bring Gerardo back at a different time to talk about what it looks like in the secondary system, so we can not only streamline elementary but streamline all the way up.
Well, especially because technology is one of our priorities in LCAP, right? So we should be investing in that.
It is an LCAP area.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you tell me how the Chromebooks are holding up? We're 2 years or so into them now. Or
You want to go to the...
good.
Actually, the Chromebooks have been great.
Okay.
They're holding up well. They're still fast. They hold their charge. We've had to replace a few here and there, but most of them have been under warranty. But I think looking over technology over time, the Chromebooks have been one of the best things that we've had
Good.
that have
Okay.
maintained.
Glad to hear that.
We got a lot of iPads in the beginning, and teachers realized that the iPads aren't as good as the Chromebooks. The Chromebooks are just simple, easy to use, small,
They have a
lightweight,
keyboard.
and they have keyboards. Yeah, so they're great.
And a great price.
Yeah,
Very
Good
good.
price. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I would say that I see a lot more use of the iPads in K and 1, TK, K and 1, that they're able to swipe and do all that really easily. And then the 2nd through 5th are really using more Chromebooks for their iPads. Interestingly, one thing that happens a lot is the headphone jack gets broken, or it stays inside, and then you actually can't repair that without essentially paying for a whole new iPad. So that's kind of become an interesting issue.
the cost is a lot more expensive.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Well, thanks, Jamie. Okay, so we'll move on to D6, approval of the local control and accountability plan, otherwise known as the LCAP.
And our CBO, Maureen Fitzgerald, will make this report.
It's situated here. So the LCAP is being returned to you, as Dr. Sarvis mentioned. It was incomplete, and the county brought it back for some inclusion and clarification. And what you have before you is the work of our Magic Mari again, and I don't think any of us could have gotten through this document without her, not only her knowledge, but her skills in preparing the template. There's been a lot of work put into this. The main issue in the LCAP, and that you see before you, is that even though we are a basic aid district, we still have to call out in this plan all of our supplemental and concentration grant dollars where we funded through the LCFF, the local control funding formula. And so we've gone through the district budget as it was approved and all of the other supporting documents of what should have been identified, and they're included in here now. So we've vetted this revised plan with the county, with Ellen, who's been fantastic to work with, and what you have before you now is that revision. It's a big document. You probably don't want me to
It
go
is a
through the
big
whole thing.
Yeah, we've gone through. I think we've gone through
Yeah.
the whole document before, but
Yes,
We've
in fact, we've
LCAP'd
gone
quite
through
a
this
lot.
document before.
yes.
I'm just scanning through the red
Right,
to see
right,
if there's
right.
anything.
Probably a lot of red.
We
I'm in a-
purposely tried not to change the language, and you'll see the introductory
Yeah.
language that was the same as it was last spring about some of the preliminary work that was done on this.
Right.
But we tried to fill it out so that it accounts for all expenses, certainly all categorical and supplementary services and activities.
And then there may have been some clarification, not so much in the actions, but in who the target population is. So instead of saying district-wide, it would say these two schools, this school, high school, that kind of thing. And then the last significant change I'll call out is at the very back with the annual update in section 3A and 3B. The language in those sections, and you'll see red in there also, really needed to talk to not just everything that we're doing in the LCAP, like that whole big document summarized in that little section of a box, but to all of the supplemental and concentration grant goals and actions and funding we're going to target also in that. So it was a lot of wordsmithing, it was a lot of articulation, and this is like the county gave their blessing, and we're hoping you do too.
Yep.
Well, you know, when we went through this other times, I was wondering who else aside from us are reading this. Now we know somebody's reading it.
Oh, yeah.
And pinpointing where we need to up it a little bit.
I was rather impressed. They do due diligence.
Oh, yeah.
And they have people from their accounting department go through and they're adding up all the numbers to see that we've got all of our expenses really covered.
Fantastic.
Do you want a motion?
Yeah, I'd like a motion.
Okay. I'm going to move that we approve the annual update and revisions to the local control and accountability plan.
I second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can rest for 3 months before you start working. on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to item D7, which is a resolution. Let's see, we have an attachment there.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
We do have an attachment.
Um,
In fact, we borrowed heavily from the CSBA language. This is a resolution that will benefit school funding.
Okay.
Oh.
Let's read it.
Oh, we do?
Sure. Sorry.
Okay, let's hear that.
He's waited very patiently.
Hi, Jerry Blair, please.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members. My name is Gary Blair, and I'm here to urge the support of the passage of Proposition 55, which is on our November 8th ballot, and your board's adoption of a resolution supporting it. As you well know, Proposition 30 was passed in 2012 to provide additional funding for public education that suffered terrible reductions as a result of the recession. It added a 1/4 cent to the state sales tax, and it increased income taxes on the wealthiest Californians. The problem is, at the end of 2016, the 1/4 cent sales tax portion of Prop 30 will expire. And at the end of 2018, absent passage of Prop 55, the income tax portion will also sunset. So if nothing is done, we're going to revert back to what we had in funding levels prior to 2012. Prop 55 will drop the 1/4 cent sales tax provision because some argue that it's regressive in nature because it applies to everyone, but it will extend the income tax component on the wealthiest Californians for a period of 12 years so that our educational system stays intact as we continue to experience a slow economic recovery. My understanding is that we presently receive somewhere between $400,000 to $500,000 annually in Proposition 30 revenues. Your budget officer will have the exact number. I don't have that. Imagine the devastation to our Carpinteria Unified School District, to our annual budget, if that money suddenly went away. On a statewide level, Proposition 30 raises and has raised about $6 billion every year since it was approved in 2012. Estimated increases, if Proposition 55 passes, is that we'll get $4 to $9 billion annually, depending on the economy and on the stock market. One interesting fact I just looked up on Ballotpedia, which is an online website that tracks all the ballot propositions, is that as of August 16th of this year, $42 million has been raised in support of Prop 55, and $0 has been raised in opposition to it. So I urge the board to not only adopt this resolution unanimously, but to also be active and advocate for its passage. I think this advocacy should include development of a fact sheet that could be published in English and Spanish and posted on your website. It should inform the public of the fiscal impact to our district if Prop 55 fails to pass. You could do it in a PDF format so that anyone could download it and pass it out to friends and neighbors who are interested. There's other ways to actively support it, such as through local media, press release, and speaking before civic organizations. Support for Prop 55 is a win-win for everyone, but in the end, it's especially a win for our children and for our students. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
I got beat.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I think Gary presented it very well. My interest in this is not about our direct gain, but about the health and financial stability of other school districts. As you know, we're a basic aid district. This doesn't help us much.
Well, it's not a guaranteed amount of money. That's the I think the misconception how it affects. I mean, I think we should support it, but the way it affects Carpinteria is not a guaranteed amount of money because it doesn't go on an average daily attendance or an LCFF.
Ms. Fitzgerald can address what we actually get.
Well,
Yes.
it's right here, and we know it's over 400,000. It's 400 and almost 32,000
Yes.
right now a year. So we know that. We've seen that in our budget for years to come, and we know that it's going out of our budget in a couple years if
It's out of
this
our
isn't
budget
passed.
After one.
in
Just
18.
1 year.
In 18.
Yeah, so that's the one-time mandate block grant money.
Yeah.
That's with, it's funded through Prop 30, but it's off any apportionment. So those are the one-time dollars that we've got in the past couple of years.
Well,
Yeah.
that is part of the I think the concept here is that I don't think it's wise to spend one-time revenues, non-recurring revenues, on a recurring expense.
Right.
I think that's bad budgeting, and we did that last year. We gave a 4% raise, and we used some of that one-time money to give a 4% raise to add to that raise that we otherwise would have afforded, and that becomes a recurring cost down the line, which leads to structural deficits.
Right.
And so to count on that money as a means to give ongoing COLAs is not good budgeting. You know, it's good for programs where we can, buy some technology. We can do temporary programs. We can do professional development, things like that. But it isn't. We should not use it for recurring costs. Any recurring costs, salary or any other things. I still think we
I
should
agree with you,
support it.
Andy. Yes, I agree with you completely.
But I think we really need to make it clear, and I think it's important that the public realizes that this, I don't think it would be wise to say this. The passages of this will allow us to raise salaries.
I agree with you. But there are a lot of one-time expenses that happen
there's
year after
plenty of other
year, and
things
you're
that we can
absolutely
use
right.
it on.
Technology and other things are they need to be funded as well. So I do agree that we need to support this, and I will make a motion
Okay, I'd like
that
to
we
have
approve resolution number 16-787 in support of Proposition 55.
Second.
any further discussion?
Should we read the
Wanna read it?
resolution?
Sure, I can read it. Okay, resolution 16787, resolution in support of Proposition 55, the California Children's Education and Healthcare Protection Act of 2016. Whereas the Carbon Unified School District Board of Education is committed to making policy and financial decisions that enable the school district to provide quality educational programs and services to the school-aged children of our community. And whereas during the recent recession, the state cut more than $56 billion from education, healthcare, and other critical services, and public schools statewide experienced unprecedented funding reductions and apportionment deferrals. And whereas California public schools rank 42nd out of the 50 states in per pupil spending, California public schools are the most crowded in the nation, and California provides fewer guidance counselors and librarians per student than any other state in the nation. And whereas many of California's school children come from low-income families that lack access to health care services needed to keep those children in school and learning, and whereas passage of Proposition 30 in 2012 helped increase state revenues, providing a significant boost to California's K-12 school spending and sending funds directly to school districts throughout the Education Protection Account. And Whereas the revenues from Proposition 30 will decline after 2016 and will disappear completely after 2018, the last year its provisions will be in effect. And whereas Proposition 55 and the California Children's Education and Healthcare Protection Act of 2016 would extend the Proposition 30 temporary income tax rates for an additional 12 years to continue funding the Education Protection Account and boost spending on health care for low-income families. And whereas, unless Californians extend the Proposition 30 temporary tax increases, the state's schools most likely will receive relatively fewer dollars in the years ahead, raising the prospect that California school spending will fall even further behind the nation. And whereas the California School Boards Association supports Proposition 55, the California Children's Education and Health Care Protection Act of 2016, and whereas that it wants examples, programmatic investments that need to be continue into the future depend on current funding levels. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Carpenter Unified School District Board of Education joins the California School Boards Association and governing boards around the state in supporting Proposition 55, the California Children's Education and Health Care Protection Act of 2016, and in urging the legislature to work with the public education community to identify stable, long-term adequate funding solutions to public schools, be it further resolved that this body, the Carpenter Unified School District Board of Education, supports the passage of Proposition 55, the California Children's Education and Health Care Protection Act of 2016, because it provides needed revenue to public schools. There we are. So this is a roll call.
All right. Alicia.
Aye.
Jacqueline.
Aye.
Andy.
Aye.
Terry.
Aye.
And I'm aye. Unanimous.
All righty. Thanks, Gary. Do we have any more comment? Thanks, Brett. Any other comment, Jolene?
Public.
Oh, no? Okay. All right, we'll move it down to item F, educational services. And we have a board is being asked to approve a memorandum of understanding between the Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse Fighting Back and the FSA, Family Service Agency, with CUSD regarding START program services for the 2016-17 school year. The proposed staffing allocation is based on a review of the last few years of clients and services, and the allocation for 2016-17 will be based on actual usage. For the 2016-17 school year, the children and families would benefit and be allocated 4.7 full-time equivalents by the agencies. Pending our approval, the full-time equivalent allocation for Catalino and Carpenter Family School will be combined as one allocation, which gives the whole campus 1.2 full-time equivalents. The financial impact, the MOUs with CADA and FSA, each not to exceed $10,000, will be paid prorated by usage with site funds. Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Alrighty. Move on to item G, business operations facility and warrants.
I move we approve the warrants for August 13th, 2016 through September 2nd, 2016.
So moved? I mean, no, you move. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Getting lost. I'm gonna
Alrighty. Move on to gifts, grants, and donations. We're being asked to accept the following. As we heard earlier in the meeting from Rotary, Rotary Club of Carpenter is donating 90 musical instruments valued at $20,000 to the Carpenter Unified School District's music programs. Wow.
I'll move for approval with great gratitude.
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just once again, Rotary's outstanding.
Amazing.
Amazing group.
what our community gives to our schools.
It's
really
it's tremendous. Yeah, it is. Okay, we'll move on to item G3, revised resolution, which authorizes the superintendent and the chief business officer to make cash and budget transfers between and within district funds as necessary for the payment of obligations of the district. Due to the change in superintendent, so it was necessary to revise the resolution. Okay, can I get a motion?
I move that we adopt revised resolution 16782.
783.
783, sorry.
I second.
782 in here.
Oh, it's a typo in
Yeah.
Oh, 782.
Okay, roll call.
Alicia?
Aye.
Jacqueline?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Terry?
Aye.
And I'm aye.
Okay, move on to item G4, GAN limit calculation and resolution 16-785, adopting the GAN limit. Can I get a motion there?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Alicia?
Aye.
Jacqueline?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Terry?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, item G5 is a contract we're asked to approve a contract with NWEA and MAP for the NWEA and MAP program. Sorry.
It's just different getting used to reading off the computer.
It is. I'm sorry. So basically the programs that we discussed earlier.
Yes.
We're being asked to approve those for the 4 elementary schools. And the program cost is $9,936 and we paid from general funds unrestricted.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Alrighty. Item number G6 is we're being asked to approve renewal contract subscription with Performio Solutions, doing business as Ed Caliber, an online data platform and curriculum storage and planning system link digitally and other resources like measure of academic progress. So what we listened to earlier. Subscription cost is $10,000 when we paid from general funds unrestricted.
I'll move for approval.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We'll move on to G7, our unaudited actuals.
We'd like to spend a little time on this, just so that it's very clear to the board and to the public what last year's budget ended at.
Okay.
Just to see how good I'm at this. Mouse. Okay, so we have closed our books. I will tell you, in my 2.5 months, this was a team effort with staff, and I appreciate all the work that they did to help bring me on up to speed and get through the year-end close. I'm going to cover in this presentation the document that's called variance analysis that talks about what you saw in estimated actuals, where we actually ended, what you saw in the adopted budget, and what our revised budget looks like, so you see the bottom line. So this is a chunk of the first, oops. Okay, mouse. What you're going to see here are the 15-16 unaudited actuals, what you saw in estimated actuals, where we closed officially by major category over to the left. You're going to see a lot of, I would say, intercategory shifts here. Largely, this is due to the reality that we need to align what we're spending better with where our budget is. And so there's not a whole lot of net variance, but there's a lot of change going like this. And the majority of the changes here are really in in these categories here and some up here, although this is not the entire result of any savings. You'll see a big shift here in the other outgo and other sources, and this is a result of being reclassified up here. So there were a lot of things that had to go up here rather than down here, and so you see a lot of shifts. This is very general. That shows you just the major categories. The most important slide is the next one. And this talks about what changed in the increase or decrease to our fund balance. So we said we were going to have a positive year of 209, and we ended with a positive year of 396,000, an increase of 187,399. A lot of that was attributed to our cafeteria fund not having as high of a contribution as we had planned, as well as some...
It didn't encroach as much as it has?
It didn't encroach as much at all. I think there were a lot of reasons. There was some savings in an unfilled position, and so there were some one-time savings that attributed to that. But also working with Laurel, our new director, we know that we could help mitigate that ongoing, and we have some strategies to help get that done. And then there were some, of course, unspent balances. That always happens at the year end. So while this looks like a really large number, it really is not that big of a number. It's a fraction of a percent.
Right.
So it's actually quite close. It shows our ending fund balance as we close 15-16 as a total of $3.7 million. And then down here we look at what the components are. And you'll see some this is where you're going to see some changes. Just because of what ended up down here, ended up there, and how they look in the shift. We have our restricted balances. That is what it is. Our principal's reserve was spent down. In the estimated actuals, this was a general fund reserve for the main painting project. That is now budgeted up. So it comes out of the reserve and it now goes into the body of the budget. So you'll see that here. It is not down here, but it is up in the body of the expenses. This is our pending settlement agreement, and this $522,000 includes the amount reserved for 15-16 and 16-17. So I adjusted that just for the single year, and you'll see in the 16-17 that does go back up to 522. And then our required
I'm sorry,
reserve.
can you say that again about and 16-17? I want to hear your statement again.
We are closing our 15-16 year, and this 522 included the ongoing 1% also for 16-17. So we pulled the other 1% out. You'll see that built back in the reserves when we get to the 16-17 year. Okay. So when you look at our unappropriated, it looks like it changed quite a lot. But in the reality, our fund balance, our actual cash or fund in the bank, is only up by $187, $187,000. So it really is a reflection of what we spend and then what we designate. As we move on to the adopted budget and the revised budget, you can see that there's been no material changes at all in the revenues, very little in the expenditures, with the exception of we added an additional TK teacher. We had some shifts in the superintendent costs. We have school services for fact-finding. We've added $25,000 into that account. And then we added in the special ed bus lease. Those are the things that were not identified. We still are going to be working on this budget. There are things that we don't know yet today that could materialize later down the road in the first interim. For the first time, the county assessor's office is coming to the county CBO meeting to talk about our property tax estimates. So we're hoping that we'll get a better update then of what we're anticipating for property tax revenues, and that could eventually, of course, impact our projection. But that will be reported late. So these are the only actual adjustments to the budget, resulting in a net decrease of $155,000 to our fund balance. And when you look at the total change, when you combine both years and it flows over, the total change is only an additional $31,000 in our ending balance. So we did have savings in 15-16. We had to add back in 16-17, and the net still is a positive of 31, which is, it's really like fractions of pennies in this big, large budget. We look at the components, very similar to the adopted, with the exception of the principal's reserves. The main painting, again, is out. And then here's where you see the full cost of the settlement set aside for 15, 16, and 16, 17. So you see in the 16, 17 year, the shift for the unappropriated is a little bit different than before, but it's about $243,000. That's how it kind of nets out over the 2 years. Any questions before I hit the multi-year? All right. So the multi-year at a glance, while we look at our 16-17 year, as I just presented it to you with our fund balance, it shows that we have an 8.8% reserve. As we move out our years with the assumption that and this is where it's important, the settlement agreement that we have on the table matriculates over the course of the years with step and column built in, cost of health and welfare increases built in, and very little other statutory increases built in. It shows that as we move out our 5-year plan, our fund balance not only gets depleted, but we no longer meet our minimum 3%, let alone our board designated in board policy 10%. So the realities are that we are still operating, regardless of any settlement agreement, a structural deficit that will have to be addressed at some point with I don't like to call them reductions. I call them budget reprioritizations. It's going to take a big process to go through our budget. Where are we spending our money? What is it serving? And where is it best to be served? And I think we'll be starting that work in the next coming weeks.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
On page 5, the $522,000, is that for this year? You're assuming that we're matching the same offer that's now on the table?
So this is assuming in 15-16 the offer the district has is 1% on schedule, 2% off.
So that's last year's
That's
budget.
15-16, but there is an ongoing cost of that agreement.
Oh, so this is not even including the negotiation. Oh, okay. There's no good. No. So this
is
budget
only
right here. There's no negotiation.
No, nothing built in for anything further for 16-17 or any out year.
For 16,
This is
17.
only including the cost and ongoing cost of the settlement for
Ongoing
15-16 as we've presented
Got
it.
it.
Yeah.
And in 3 years out, we're down to, or 4 years out, we're down to below 1%.
Yes.
But you do have in here step and column.
Step and column.
Some sort of premium increase for health insurance.
Yes.
That's still in here.
That's still in there, as well as like a small CPI increase for supplies and services.
Are the STRS and PERS increases in
STRS
there
and PERS
too?
increases are built in, as well as any anticipated work comp type increases.
And what tax assumption are you making? What's the percentage?
For the STRS and PERS?
No, for the
Property
property
tax.
taxes.
So this is as it was presented, and actually the it's 4%, but it's
Ongoing.
it's 4% of the unsecured. So overall, if you took tax to tax, it's a little less than 4.
Yeah.
But it's 4 from unsecured throughout. Yeah.
So 4%
Starting in 17-18.
Oh, 17-18. What's the budget? What's the taxes for 16-17?
They are at just about 4.2.
And last year
Last year was like 5.3.
going down.
And that's the latest we have from the tax assessor with our property taxes.
So-
But we will know more later this month.
So what's interesting is so when Prop 30 passed, it freed up all that money for the education protection account. and it led to significant increases for LCFF districts, what used to be called ADA, where they were seeing the 8, 10, 12,
Right.
14% increases in their revenue.
And we didn't.
We would see, we had to take the fair share cuts that we'll never get
See
returned
back.
to us back in 10, 11, 12. And
Over
and
$1
so
million.
it's kind of I'm in support of the Prop 55, but all it will do is enable LCFF districts to continue to increase their funding and continue to basically close that gap that exists from their from 08 till now, and we're not going to see that money.
Yeah, you have to consider, though, with LCFF, coming from that world, so they only have basically maybe 17, 18 before the target is met on the LCFF calculation. And beyond that, passage of Prop 55 or not, even today in 16, 17, the COLA is less than 1%.
No, they see it. They're going to see if
decrease.
55 doesn't pass, they're going to see a decrease, and basic aid districts look
huge.
better.
Right.
But the problem is that money goes towards concentration grant
Right.
reimbursements that we will never see.
Right, so we
And-
won't see
and-
it, but we have to
but
maintain
what
it.
I'm getting at is all of most of our surrounding districts are LCFF, and that's who we're constantly compared to.
Right.
Santa Barbara got a big raise. Ventura got a big raise. Oxnard got a big raise. Why can't we get one? And I just think it's fundamental to this argument that the public needs to realize that we'll get some money. It's one-time money. It's not guaranteed, and it's so that's why we can't plan on that as a recurring revenue stream that we can apply towards a recurring cost like salaries.
Right.
It's tough to get your mind around
Yeah.
if you don't study this stuff, but it's fundamental to the argument now and the disagreement we're having with our union that we should spend our reserves down, which it's actually fundamental to that argument too, because we're being accused of having excess reserves that are essentially one-time dollars. So we could spend our reserves down if we spend our reserves down on one time on salary, which is recurring. Those reserves are a one-time lump of money, and so to spend a one-time lump of money on something that continues to cost you money in perpetuity, you just can't do that, and it's really poor budgeting, and I think it's fundamental to this argument, and it's very important that the public realizes that because it's if we had the money and it was recurring and we could count on it, it'd be one thing, but we can only count on our property tax revenues, and those we really can't count on because we don't know if they're going to go down to 2% or 1%, because it doesn't look like they're going to be at 5 or 6%.
Could I comment on that as well? That's very true. These LCFF districts have been growing. They've been getting new ongoing money faster than we have because our growth is limited to property tax increases. This is particularly concerning to me, and I know it is to the board. We have other basic aid districts around us who carry well over 10% in reserve, and they see that as essential. When I talk to SF Squared, Schools for Sound Finance, they recommend something more like 10 to 25%. I was gratified to see that this board had the foresight in policy to say we need to carry a 10% reserve because there are big threats. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but there are big threats to basic aid districts. If this is all to go away at some point, we have another basic aid district that carries 100% of their budget as a reserve. And they always live with that fear. Well, they're deep into basic aid. probably don't have to worry so much. But there are threats to that. We saw years when basic aid districts got nothing. There were no property tax increases. And who knows when that might happen again.
Well, the problem comes in that the only thing we can do to combat this structural deficit is to cut things, and which means you're cutting programs that are valuable. That you're cutting counselors, you're cutting reading intervention, you're cutting. These are all things.
Everything goes on the list.
They're all the first things to get on the list, but they're fundamental to what we're trying to do in this district, and they're going to hurt the ones who need it the most.
Yes.
And the same goes for the fact that we'll have to cut full-time equivalents, and who's the first one to get cut? It's the young teachers that are not being paid that much to begin with, and so I wish we could have an open, honest, fair dialogue about this, because rather than bomb throwing and innuendo and personal attacks, because it really is important that people understand this. And it's not easy to make these decisions, but I mean, anybody who looks at a budget with any fairness can see that that we have a problem here, and the only thing we can do we can't spend reserves on an ongoing cost, ongoing expense. Right. It won't happen. So we're only left with cutting things that, cutting positions, and that's difficult.
Or increasing class size.
Well, that still cuts positions.
Yes.
I mean, that's
exactly
really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
When 87% of your budget goes to salaries and benefits to people, that's really all you can do. And it's not easy, and I wish we weren't in this situation, but we are. But I really think it's important. I'm hoping people are listening tonight that kind of start understanding this, because facts are facts, numbers don't lie, and it's important that this message gets across. So,
Well
sorry
said,
for
Andy.
interrupting you, Maureen.
You're fine.
said,
No,
Andy.
it's all good.
Remind us, what is the minimal amount that we need in our reserves just to make cash flow?
Well, cash is a different beast, because we don't receive cash and property taxes but twice a year. So the reserve and the cash are like two different things. These are budget numbers. These reserves don't necessarily mean cash in the bank.
No, but we
But
did a
what's-
calculation a couple years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah,
And
I'll
in
have to
order
take
to
a look
have
at that.
enough cash to maintain operations, it's about 5.5%
Right.
reserve in order for us not to have to borrow money to make payroll.
It would
That's-
probably be at least 5% or more,
it's like
because
5.6.
So, which means that next year we're starting to have to think about
Think about
yeah.
borrowing money just
to make payroll.
make payroll, and then
which is why you will be having a budget meeting, and you'll be making some adjustments.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, we did authorize a TRAN, and that's why we do a TRAN, because there are gaps in the year where we don't have enough cash. We know this is the document that says at the end of the year, will there be enough cash? So we know that there will be a day it runs out if we don't make some adjustments.
that day is
Right.
Not very far off.
Not
if
far
we
out.
Don't
Right.
adjust.
No, we should have been having this talk last year.
Yes.
did have this
So,
last
well, we should have been having this
Sooner last
sooner
year.
last year than we did. Anyhow. Okay.
Any other questions?
Nice
This
job.
is the part of the meeting
I
that
love
always gets everybody
bringing
going.
joy.
Yeah.
I'd like
But
to.
thank
Nice
you.
to see you too, Maureen.
I appreciate a board that understands this.
I don't know if I appreciate the fact that I understand it.
Yeah.
Wish you
Because
didn't,
I
right?
understand it a little too well.
Ignorance is
Yeah.
bliss.
Yes. Okay. Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay. Sorry.
Unless you have any more questions.
No.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to item H, Measure U.
Pardon me?
Oh, we do.
There's
Oh.
action is needed on
Oh,
this.
there's action. Oh. How do I know if there's action?
It says accept.
Oh, right there. Okay.
You refer back to your yellow.
Where's my yellow?
So I will move that we accept the 2015-2016 unaudited actuals and the 2016-17 revised budget.
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we'll move on to item H, Measure U. And
Dave is so happy for that.
yes.
Waiting patiently.
Okay.
We should have.
So, first item is we're being asked to accept a mutual agreement to cancel a contract with TL Veterans Construction Incorporated for exterior painting upgrades at Main School.
I'm going to move that we approve this.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
It was too good to be true. That's what we thought.
Right, because the other.
Do you remember
It was-
that
it was
bid?
about
It
half
was
the- it
just
was
so
about half the other
ridiculous.
bid.
We couldn't understand
So are we,
it.
is it going back up for bid or?
Yeah, Dave could.
We'll repackage the project and put it back out to bid. That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
There'll be a little bit of time. We're going to take a look at what we can take away from the project because money is an issue. And the budget we were looking at the budget and trying to get it down to that amount. So, yeah, but we'll repackage it.
Okay, thanks. Okay, everyone, all those in favor of approving this mutual agreement to cancel? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so item H2 is being asked to accept the asbestos abatement clearance report by FCG Environmental for the Canaleo Elementary School multipurpose room interior upgrades.
Move to approve?
All right,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item H3.
You'll be happy that's done, huh, Jamie?
Okay, we're being asked to approve change order 001 for upper gym roof replacement at Carpentry High School. So the original contract was $177,874.
This was a nice one.
No?
Yeah. No.
Carpenter High
Oh, we're at the high school.
Oh, Carp Middle School. Yeah. But it was
I clicked on
177.
H3.
Yeah, that's right.
Here.
Go to your yellow.
Is it yellow?
No,
Page 7.
you read the right amount.
I think we're on target.
you read the right
H3,
amount.
approval of change order number 001,
001,
multipurpose.
yeah.
Yeah.
Carpentry High School.
No, this is middle school.
There's a difference between the yellow and the.
Oh.
Great.
So, the H4 is high school.
Yeah, it's right. They're both right.
What's that?
Yeah, we do have a technical error.
We're on H3? Okay.
Yes, H3.
So we're asked to approve change order number 001, upper gym roof replacement at Carpentry High School.
That's H4.
Yeah, she said H3. We're on
This is the
H3.
middle school. Oh,
It's saying.
I see what you're saying.
It's saying
Yes,
at the
I see
high
what you're
school
saying.
here and middle
Yeah,
school there.
there's two different-
Which
So-
is it, Dave?
So the title is middle school.
Let
Well,
Dave.
the one for
Text
the one for the
says high
middle
school.
school is a change order and it's a change order in a negative of $4,118.63.
Okay, which is the one for the 177?
Middle school or high school?
That would be for the middle school.
Okay, so it doesn't look like we have
No, we
the high
do.
school
Deductive
one.
change order.
Or is it down at the
If
bottom?
you click on H3, it is now I have to go back. H3 says upper gym roof replacement at Carpenter High School.
Sorry.
But on here it says middle
It's,
school.
it's
I know.
just,
The title
bold
says middle
It
school.
does, but when you get down
All right.
here, it says high school.
So we're asked
Yeah.
to approve a change order for the multipurpose building roof replacement at Carpinteria Middle School for $177,874.
The middle school, the hard copy's right here also.
Okay,
Our copy is
No,
wrong.
the
Okay.
bold part is different from
Is-
the.
Is Channel Islands Roofing for $177,874? Is that for the middle school or the high school?
It's
gotta be-
school. That's middle school.
That's what I just said.
Okay.
So
That's the
not-
contract attached, correct?
The motion is not. So you want to, what you want to go for is the middle school.
Okay.
Right, isn't that what I said?
You did, but
Okay, I'm going to say it again. I'm going to
where
say it
we
again.
are.
Approval of change order number 001, multi-purpose building roof replacement at Carpinteria Middle School. Right? That's all I have to say. Just approval.
Yes.
well, the contract will be decreased by, sorry. The contract sum will be decreased by $4,118.63.
Correct.
Correct?
That's correct.
All right.
Okay, so I
that's
moved, so somebody second.
Second.
Jumped in there.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 That was painful.
Thank you,
But-
board, for bearing with
Well, I
us
got-
as
I
we
got
go
three
through
now.
this new process.
Gave me fits there, Jolene.
That's what happens when Andy talks budget.
Yeah, I talk too much. That's my telltale now. I talk too much. I start coughing.
Wait,
Okay.
H5 and H3 is the
I,
same.
Okay, so we'll go on to H4. And I'm going to open the attachment here.
This one is, yeah, high school.
For this
This is the high school?
Oh, I
They're
think
different
these are
change
both
orders.
Number one.
I know, it's really weird.
Okay, so this H4 is for change order 001 for upper gym replacement at the high school. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So the amount is, the contract sum will be increased by $4,237.22.
That's correct.
Okay, so can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Second, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Now H5 is the same as H3.
All right, I'm gonna open up the attachment.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
You're not winning me over with this thing, Jolene.
It's a little tough.
You're not alone.
It actually works better than I
Change is
thought it would.
painful.
It actually does work better than you're right. Okay, so item
Change is painful.
5 is a change order for the middle school. This is the same. No, okay.
It's a
So
different
this, so
change
we
order.
approved a reduction the first time. So this is the second change order for the middle school, increasing the contract that was decreased previously, an additional $2,332.
But there is, yeah, it's still a net reduction.
It's still a net reduction by about a little over $1,000. So, so can I have a motion to approve change order number 2 for the middle school multipurpose room?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Done.
Get through this.
All right.
Okay, move on to item I, personnel.
Thank you, Dave.
Oh,
You're welcome. Thank you.
hope we entertained you. Let's see. I can't open this now.
Employment agreement.
Yeah, I know. It gave me a.
Yeah, it's in there.
Okay, board is being asked to accept and approve the employment agreement for interim superintendent Brian Sarvis as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're now official.
I'll go to work now.
Okay, the board's being asked to approve the appointment of Dr. Sarvis, CBO Maureen Fitzgerald, Director of Human Resources Darlene Avalos, Principal Jamie Pursoon, and 2 lucky board members and 1 alternate to certificated and classified negotiations for 2016-17.
I will move for approval.
We got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Would you like to select the board members?
I recommend Jacqueline and Andy
Thank
for the
you,
job.
Michelle.
What did I do to you?
Is that a motion?
It's for
Are you making
discussion.
a
You-
motion?
Oh, then I move.
Discussion?
I will second.
Oh, you will.
I third it.
You guys are both off on Christmas. Any discussion?
Well, actually,
No, you do.
actually, I would amend that motion, or I would add to that motion that Michelle would be the alternate. I think that you're going to lose 2 board members up here in a very short period of time, so it kind of just makes sense right now. You will reorganize
We're gonna
in
revisit
December.
this in December.
Yeah.
So.
That's true.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, board communications. Ms. Jacobson.
Oh, no, nothing new. Thank you.
I want to take this opportunity. I see Principal Jamie Pursoon sitting up there, and I know that you and the rest of your colleagues, the administrators, have been working double duty while in this transitional period, and I just want to thank you and the rest of what. Please pass on my appreciation, I'm sure our appreciation for all that you're doing in this time of transition. I also want to say that I attended Copacabana. I want to thank CEF and for throwing a great party with delicious food, great music, lots of auction items that I didn't get to win any. But
Jamie won all
win.
of them.
It was a fun time.
Good.
Nothing from me.
Well, I'll just endorse what Jacqueline said. I think everybody is working and wearing a lot of hats, and I appreciate all the hard work because I know it's not easy right now. I wanted to just, I guess, mention to the community today that was able to attend a memorial service for a longtime resident of Carpinteria, Joe Wilbrandt, that probably many people who have been here for a long time know Joe or his family. He's been here since 1925, Carpinteria High School graduate, longtime blacksmith and welder in the community.
World War II veteran.
World War II veteran. He died on September 5th at 96 years of age, married with his wife beside him, and they'd been married for 73 years. Mm-hmm. And I just really appreciate, I've known that man my entire life, and I just really appreciate that strong support system that I grew up with in this community. It's really amazing. And I just want to send out my condolences to his family, but it truly was a celebration of life. And he was a wonderful member of our community. And the flagpole that is downtown, in the center of town on Linden Avenue, he put that up. Mm-hmm. So I think of him every time I look at that, and I just wanted to say that tonight.
Thanks, Terry.
Mm-hmm.
Great. I don't have a whole lot to say, but I think it is worth mentioning. I've been working on, or we've been working on a statement to the community, mm-hmm. and we're going to post it on our website. It's not a board resolution or anything, but I'd just like to read it tonight so that people that watch this on TV or want to refer to it later. It's basically a negotiations update. So I'm going to read the whole thing. Dear parents, we would like to update you on the progress of collective bargaining. I should actually say dear parents and community, but we would like to update you on progress of collective bargaining with the union representing teachers and classified staff. So we're currently in fact-finding, and that means negotiations have thus far failed to produce an agreement for the 2015-16 school year. A state-appointed mediator twice met with both sides before determining that they were at impasse. As a result, the parties are headed into a fact-finding process beginning September 27th. During this process, each side will make presentations to a 3-person panel consisting of representatives from both parties and an agreed-upon neutral. At the end of this process, the fact-finding panel will make its recommendations for ending the impasse. The current offers. The major issue between the two sides is the size of the salary increases, or COLA. The standing offer presented by the Board of Education calls for a salary increase for the 2015-16 school year of 1% on schedule, meaning recurring, and an additional 2% off schedule, so similar to a bonus. This means that of the total 3% salary offer, 1% would be guaranteed for ensuing years and 2% would be for one-time payment. Teachers and staff have had salary increases of over 7.25% over the past 2 years, in addition to any automatic increases based on numbers of years worked. The union's formal request for 2015-16 calls for an additional 6% permanent increase. So why is the 2% off schedule? And I think I touched on this earlier during our budget discussions. The board has not agreed to make all of the 2015-16 increase permanent because the district will not be able to afford such an increase in future years without making severe cuts to educational programming and increases to class sizes. While the current year reserves are adequate to support the total 3% increase for this year, making all of the increase permanent will deplete the district's reserves below legally mandated and responsible levels. A warning from the Santa Barbara County Office of Education. In order to assure the fiscal health of local school districts, by law, the Santa Barbara County Office of Education is required to review all school district budgets. The Santa Barbara County's Office of Education recent analysis of the adopted 16-17 budget, which includes the CUSD's currently offered increase, budgeted. Our offer is budget is in our 16-17 budget. Warned the district about spending down its reserves, although the district is projecting to meet its minimum reserve standard in the current and 2 subsequent years, deficit spending of this magnitude will significantly reduce the district's available reserve balance. We recommend that the district closely manage its programs and streamline operations where possible in order to mitigate the adverse impact these programs may have on the unrestricted reserve of the general fund. In addition to the Santa Barbara the SBCEO's recommendation, the district's outside financial expert has concluded that the CUSD reserves are insufficient for a basic aid district, similar to ours. In negotiations with the union, the Board of Education has the responsibility of ensuring that any staff salary increases that are agreed upon will meet the legal budget requirements and enable the district to continue to provide students with a quality education. We're hopeful that the upcoming fact-finding process will result in the parties reaching an agreement for the 15-16 union contract. In the meantime, we want to reassure parents and the community that despite differences that have arisen during negotiations, all district staff members are committed to the education of our students. That's it.
Thanks, Sandy.
Okay. So we don't have anything for future. So we're going to adjourn to closed session, and then we'll report out at the close of that. Thank you, everyone.
Good. Thank you, and thanks for working with this system.